Okay, once again, good afternoon. So this afternoon, we are going to tackle about the ethics in supply chain operations, the chapter 12. Learning objectives. At the end of the chapter, you should be able to, number one, determine the relationship of ethics in the supply chain. Number two, identify the major ethical issues in purchasing and supply management and offer some guidance. And number three, appreciate and apply the values that are specific in employee, an organization, and its stakeholders to incorporate these two policies in ethical purchasing and supply chain management. Next. So ethics and supply chain. This is the introduction. Legal issues are highly vulnerable in the field of procurement and supply management. It is because the person in charge of procurement is responsible for paying a large amount of money through several organizations. Procurement professionals such as advertising or marketing personnel perform an important part in organizations external environment. So in this introduction, my question is, why does the procurement professionals or person who are involved in advertising and marketing personnel, why they have that special or very important role in this supply chain? Why? Procurement professionals such as advertising or marketing personnel perform an important part in the organization external environment. Why we can say that they are very important in external environment? It is because, diba, as we can see in our televisions, Facebook, there are a lot of advertisement, which is the marketing. During our marketing subject last semester, as we were told that subject, we are talking about the strategy. So these are such, it is very important or performing details of the marketing personnel. Example, sila ang ga-market. Dayon, mangita sila og mga target market para mapasupply sila sa ilahang mga product. And then the advertising. Anong kinahanglan man kayo ang advertising sa external environment? Kay they are promoting their products using mga advertisement. For example, what kind of product nga nag-use ng mga advertisement? Of course, there are a lot of products na gama o advertisement. For example, ang sa funds. Kinsa man ang model sa funds? Tagan kayo, di ba? Lain-lain siya mga model. So, mga siya nga, ang advertising personnel, sila na ang kapangita o mga, kanabitaw na ay mga special talents, na ay mga capabilities ng mga individuals para sila ang promote sa ilang product. And then, let's continue. As a yes? Why does the advertising and marketing personnel
part in the
in external environment?
For me, kay, like for example, sa marketing, diba, as what we said, sila magkakuha o, like, kung sa mga interested yung mga persons or mga individuals sa usahin ng mga product, mo yung ilahan yung market, then after this, sa ina-advertisement, that product, kung yun yung advertise, and I possibility na through advertisement, mas mataas ang sales sa ilang product, yes, rate and sales sa ilang product, which is mas maka-benefit.
That's why the advertising and marketing personnel are very important in external environment of the business world. So, as a consequences, where a company's growth is achieved in an ethical terms, the company reputation is jeopardized. Furthermore, according to the legal and ethical guidelines, supply chain professionals cannot abdicate their responsibility to monitor, control, and choose suppliers. Next, please. So there are 7. The supply chain ethics problem in a nutshell. So before I will discuss this 7 supply chain ethics, may I call on somebody? What is your idea about ethics? Ethics. Ethics. What is ethics?
Like more on behaviors of person hours activity
Precisely. Yes.
The way na more the branches of knowledge deals with moral, I recognize that the way you communicate with moral
Just nice. Or conducting Kanang answer ko pinapakita. So, being an ethical, number one is, being an ethical company is not enough. So, being an ethical company is not enough anymore. So, my question is, ngano na kayo magpasirin na being an ethical company is not enough anymore? There are two situations in this report actually. So, I will give you the positive, the other side, and the other side. So, being an ethical company is not enough anymore. The question is, why? Nga naman, because there are a lot of companies, not all, but some, nga ilahang sa tawag na organization or their company is wala na kuan ba? Wala sila follow sa ethical nga mura mo siya ang ethical company is mura siya law nga kana siya dapat imong sundon, kana siya dapat imong sundon, pero daghan nga company wala man kayo diri nga being an ethical company is not enough anymore. Kay nga naman there are a lot of mga kanang kitang employee nga gareklamo sa usa ka company pag kanang bitong ang company mura na ginaliog bisag kamo dili mo pa gusto og lihok sa usa ka trabahoan musugot ra diay mo ipa dili ka musugot, so we have our freedom. So in that institution mao na siya nga pag ethical kayo ang company daghan kay mga employee nga garant about sa usa ka company tungod kay control ilahang lihok. And then your grant will be judged by the company it keeps. For example, si Edsel, naa siya company. And then si Elena ang iyahang supervision sa tanan nga mga company sa mga product sa company ni Edsel. And then one product nga kanabitang wala na ganahan sa usa ka tawo ni Edsel nga gi-promote nila sa iyahang supervision ni Elena, which is mura siya mag-generalize bitaw nga sila na lang tanan dili sila ganahan sa ato nga tungod kay naay one person nga dili ganahan so mura siya na-generalize mura siya gitabangan bitaw so mana siya ang the other side pod sa mga ganahan ra pod og ethical company mas prefer sila ana kay mura bitaw kana bitaw example mag-quotation sila kung kinsa pila kadagan di ba mao naman na siya dayon pag sa ethical company dili sila mosugot inana kay kinahanglan nila i-follow law by law or by step ina sila dili sila pag gusto ka na bitaw ay ikaw lang inana example choose lang ka dayon dili na siya pwede sa ilaha man is step by step. Yes,
para ni mo sa ethical company
or actually para na ako I'm in between because there are some company man po nga prefer sila ana pero kani man po siyang being an ethical company naako ni siya sa usa ka company tanan nga company na ani siya pero it depends upon the management if ila i-follow or ila dili i-follow mo na siya. Then number 3 is your whole supply chain must be ethical. Money siya kung ginayong ganina nga kuyaw ko siya pag ang whole supply chain must be ethical. Kay even ang mga employee controlled na tanan by the management. Wala sila freedom kung sa ilang buhaton, example, na sila dress coding. So sa company na sa dress coding. Unya ikaw kay kanang bitang murag nakapuyo ka sa US for so many years. Unya ikaw kay pagkita sa imong mga attire, inana, murag magtsura ka. Dayon sa imong company ang gisudlan ni ay grabe sila ka stricto sa dress coding. So masugal pa mo ganito ang yung friends. So mga siya nga di na siya na-approach ay nga correct. But the other side po is really good ganahan. Pero ang kani mo siya, let's put this 7 supply chain ethics mangod into 2 situations. So situational ko ni siya. Naay company nga oo musugot sila. Naay company po nga dili po sila musugot. Ba na siya. Then number 4 is the biggest brand in the chain will get most of the blame. So example, atong hatagan ng example, unsa man ang pinakasikat karon nga what do we call this? Milk company. Di ba ang sa Bear brand? Oh, Nestle.
Nestle na kayo company na.
Nestle na ilang company, pero ilang product is Bear brand. Dayon, sila ang pinakadako nga company. Og naay usa ka mga ka product or usa ka kanabitong consumer sa ilang product nga kanabitong na kuan siya example na sa tiyan or basta kanabitong nalain iya ang paminaw pag after niya ni-take na ang product mamuhan man ko na siya mag-blame dayon ang tibuok pang lansay na mag-blame tayo ng tibuok company within that ano lang. Small lang kayo siya lang sa'yo, pero ang feedback anak sa company, balik na gina siya dahil dito. So, mana siya nga, kung ato po siya i-con sa ka situation, na-ask yung situation nga, ay, lara sila ipadala ng mga kuhan, inanam para makabayad na ba? Dahil na po kung dito po sa step by step, ilahati na siya i-process kung kanila bagay nga food ang yung na-take or ka na, so balik ka ng konti siya ba? Ng detail, kumbaga. And then solutions can and should be implemented immediately. Mali siya. Di ba, kung naay yung problem sa usaw company naman kita yung immediate solutions na ginakuan. For example, sa atong delivery. Maplata ng usa ka delivery van. Ginaunsa man pag-respond sa company, di ba? Yung sa pag-respond, ang pangtala is yung sa pag-respond sa usa ka company. So, kuha na siya. Pag naana kanina siya na, example na ay, nato siya. Ang usang kampanya na, magpadala din na siya og mga tao para mo fix anak nga problema. Kuha na siya. Dayon, pag dito ko na sa pinasay, katong step by step, kinahanglan pa na siya og detail nga lang maplatan man asa man nilapita unsa man dai gibuhat kailan man dai ang sulod ani unsa man dai kabugat dagan kay problema dayon usa pa na siya masolusyonan so na-delay na tanan ang sa usa pod is direkta lang dayon ang responsible anak nga management direkta na mo respond dito. Next is penalties for inaction can be grave, damage, and reputation. So, penalties for inaction can be grave. Di ba, pag mao gina siya itong ginakuha nga, pag there are, kanabitong wak, di ba, may trabaho ta, ngayon, masayop ta, dako kaya ito sa yung example, ni CUENCA, ni top to other company. Kanya ikaw ang pigama sa ka ng murag to mga letter nga murag inyo bitong pangyapan ang Pikas company para mo share mo ba murag ka panguyab sa iyaha sa katong nga company dayon ang imong tanan nga papers nga ginama sayo dili mo yon ang Pikas company so ang blame sa imo normal dayon dako kay bisag imo ang pagkatawo murag kana kita murag malusno tungod lang sa sa imong inaction nga sayo. Then dako kayo na imong responsibilidad ana after sa inyong hangkuan. So, murag ang kalagot sa imong manager nga upang mo Pikas company 50%. Pag abot sa imong company, takay kita dai. Next is the cost of implementation can be affordable. The cost of implementation can be affordable. So, for example, kato siya nga situation. Kato siya nga situation kato mga luyag. Naging partner ka ang other company. Dayon, si Edsel o si Elena, example, sila to ang partnership. And then, sabi mo kung mga example. Uy! Si Elena o si Edsel, example, sila ang partner. Dayon, pag i-implement na ni Edsel nga, di ba may sayop sa mga sayop, kamo nang i-apply nila ha. Kamo nga company ang ganahan mo kung lang Elena. Dayon, sa nasayop na ka, ay imong tawo, nasayop na imong tawo, kinahanglan mo siya nga kanang tagaan ka kung sa nimo mga motibo si Elena para kanang dili siya madismaya o dili siya ma-open sa isuhan, dili siya ma-turn off. Dili siya ma-turn off sa imong ibuhat tungod kay imo man sa murag sales talk lagi ako rin siya ba nga sunod ma'am amarang na mas dagan pa kang i-offer sa iya ka dayon mas matsarahan siya sa imong mga another offer dagan ka ano. So ang katong tawo nga imuhang balat yun dagan siya trabahon. So wala siyang the cost of implementation kasi affordable. Kaya ito mag-casual lang, dili kayo harsh ang imong pag-treat anak sa katawo. Next please. What is ethics? Shenly.
Ibalik mo lang anak.
Tara na.
In your own idea, what is in your own idea, what is ethics in our supply chain? What is ethics? Mariano, your own idea. Okay, so ethics in supply chain is defined as the set of it is defined as the principles or rules related by the management that define what is right and what is wrong in an organization. To pass, ethics in a supply chain implies all that related to the supply chain activities. So ethics is the agreed upon law of behavior of any transaction between two or more individuals. A supply chain is a path that a product or service uses to reach its final destination. So ethics, we refer it as a moral principles and standards to guide a human behavior. So in this context, business and company supply chain, ethics govern conduct and decisions related to interaction between individuals and organizations. So for example, in a company supply chain, ethical consideration may include fair labor, environmental sustainability, and transparency in dealing with suppliers. So, if a company adheres to ethical standards, it might ensure that workers along the supply chain are treated fairly, and also the production process are environmentally responsible. And lastly, there is openness about practices. So, while in the other hand, unethical practices in a supply chain could involve exploiting labor, disregarding environmental impact, and engaging in dishonest business dealings. So, in adhering ethical principles, it helps create a responsible and sustainable business environment.
So, how would you identify a ethical supply chain? how do you identify supply chain?
You can identify ethical supply chain by ensuring fair labor treatment of workers, environmentally responsible practices, and also transparent with business dealings, as I mentioned earlier. So, next is supply chain ethics underpin a trustworthy and responsible customer service experience. So there are additional meanings accessible depending on the way an organization has taken to follow the values. So the supply chain networks have been redesigned to provide the most strategic solutions for increasing a company's economic and social efficiency. So this statement suggests that the supply chain ethics are fundamental in shaping a reliable and responsible customer service experience. So the interpretation of ethics can vary based on how an organization embraces its values, right? So essentially, ang ethics practices in the supply chain contribute to building trust and responsibility in serving customers. So, as mentioned here, the supply chain networks has been redesigned, right? So, the supply chain networks have been redesigned implies that organizations are actively reconfiguring their supply chains for more strategic solutions. So, ang redesign, the aim is siya to enhance both economic and social efficiency, suggesting that ethical considerations are integrated not only for moral reasons but also to optimize overall business performance. So, ethical choices in the supply chain can lead to benefits not only in terms of corporate responsibility but also in achieving economic and social objectives. So, for example, ethical practices in supply chain might involve fair treatment of suppliers and workers, and also environmentally sustainable process and transparent business dealings. So, by integrating these values into the supply chain, a company aims to provide not just products or services, but an overall positive and responsible customer experience. So, the redesign of supply chain it aligns with ethical principles, reflects commitment to long-term sustainability and societal well-being. So I have a question. How does supply chain ethics contribute to a trustworthy customer service experience? How does supply chain ethics contribute to a trustworthy customer service experience? Hindi to.
Ensures fair treatment of suppliers and workers, environmental sustainable practices, and transparent business dealings, creating a condition for trust and quality of customer service.
Ano, friend? Manalay.
Bye-bye.
Another?
Any question, guys? Any question?
How does supply chain ethics contribute to a trustworthy customer service experience?
Thank you.
Si ano daw,
Maranya.
So, as you were saying, ethics is a moral principles between the goods and bad decisions in our life. Ethics has the impact in trustworthy customer since ethics give us the idea of how we connect with our customer and how we can actually associate sila.
Another? Lana? Patrick?
Wala ulit. Isa lang po. Wala.
are responsible of your service experience. So how do you discourage suppliers to meet ethical standards? You can encourage supplier in ethical standards by ensuring fair treatment of suppliers and workers, environmentally sustainable practice, and transparent business is creating a foundation to trust and reliability in customer satisfaction. Question ka?
Give an example of how ethical supply chain practices can effectively affect customer service.
An example of ethical supply chain practices such as fair labor conditions, as what you mentioned sa iya kanina, fair labor conditions and transparent sourcing can lead to high quality products and services contributing to customer satisfaction and loyalty. So there are four forms of ethical conduct. First is high standard of professionalism. So each component of the supply chain should behave in accordance with its role. It means treating others with respect and refraining from allowing advances that should be detrimental to some. Many of the terms and requirements that have been defined must be followed by all. So any idea of high standards of professionalism? Idea of high standards of professionalism. So, the principle of high standard professionalism and ethical conduct within the supply chain emphasizes that each participant should adhere to their designated roles and responsibilities while maintaining respect with others. So this involves avoiding actions that could harm others or violate established terms and requirements. So for example, imagine a manufacturing company sourcing raw materials from a supplier. So upholding high standards of professionalism would mean that the manufacturer treats its supplier fairly, pays promptly, and doesn't pressure them into compromising on quality safety standards. So this is not only fosters a positive working relationship, but also it ensures that the entire supply chain operates ethically and responsibly. This is what high standards of professionalism implies. Next one is the transparency and accountability. Any transaction or adherence to company policies will place a premium on honesty and transparency. Do you have an idea of transparency and accountability?
So transparency and accountability is part of the supply chain, the forms of ethical conduct. Like, kalang sa part ba ka, if ang isa ka company is na transaction within other suppliers or other companies, dapat visible nila ang ilahang transaction, and dapat sila is, ang policy sila is transparent. Ang policy sa transparency nila is dili siya yung like libo guro sa bakit. Ang ilang good ilahan o ila way of transaction is by papers or makadato sa computers or pan by Google sa central dito ba dapat ang panito ang nakabutan dito is like pasya ba na klaro talang detail, dili siya yung damo palyaw sa accountability po, dili siya yung like ang ilahang way of exchanging goods sa uban nga companies is bad kulang-kulang.
Display.
Transparency focuses on the clarity and opinion of the culture of the workplace, while
while accountability focuses on the ownership or the responsible behavior shown by individuals.
Idea. So transparency and accountability. Transparency involves providing clear and open information, ensuring that stakeholders have access to relevant details. While ang accountability, on the other hand, means taking responsibility for one's actions and decisions. Coming together, kani silang dua, they create an ethical environment where individuals and organizations are honest about their intentions, actions, and outcomes. So for example, transparency and accountability. Ang company disclosing all relevant financial information in its annual reports. So you're dealing not just profits, but also potential risks and challenges. So this transparency helps investors make informed decisions. So if the company faces a setback, being accountable will mean acknowledging the issues, outlining steps for improvement, and taking responsibility for any mistakes made. So this commitment to transparency and accountability builds trust among stakeholders and enhances ethical standing of the organization. Ay, diba? Verano.
Wala ba?
Kasi mga
Ginagawa mo.
So honesty is the foundation of transparency and accountability. So being truthful in business transactions builds credibility and ensures that all parties involved are well informed about the terms and conditions and potential outcomes. The foundation booklet. So, in what ways does accountability reinforce ethical behavior within an organization? In what ways does accountability reinforce ethical behavior within an organization? Accountability ensures that individuals take responsibility for their actions and decisions. So, for example, if a project faces challenges and accountable leaders will openly acknowledge issues, outline corrective measures, and demonstrate a commitment to improvement, fostering an ethical culture. The third form of ethical conduct is personal integrity. The personal integrity of every person should be a leading force in ensuring that the whole supply chain adheres to the appropriate policies. Receiving benefits behind the backs of people to gain an unfair advantage is unethical and should be discouraged for all employees. Do you have an idea for personal integrity? Sorry, man.
Oral ni.
Personal integrity. Wala? Hindi pa tayo. So, personal integrity involves individual aligning their actions with strong and moral code. So, in the context of supply chain, it means refraining from deceptive practices a way that could compromise fairness or violate policies. So the ethical foundation of the entire supply chain relies on personal integrity of each participant. So for example, kaning in an employee procurement role who has the opportunity to influence supplier selection. So personal integrity would mean that this employee does not accept personal favors or kickbacks from a supplier in exchange for favoring them in the selection process. Instead, the employee adheres to fair and transparent evaluation criteria, ensuring that decisions within the supply chain are made based on merit and adherence to policies. Upholding personal integrity in such situations contribute to the overall ethical health of the supply chain.
Ako mo ay, mo kayo.
Idea of personal integrity.
Is the sum of ethical standards that communicate what kind of person you are and how you treat yourself and others. For example, be honest, and for these reasons, integrity often factors itself into business ethics. How can personal integrity contribute to building trust and strong relationship in the supply chain?
Personal integrity influences decision making by guiding individuals to make choices aligned with a strong moral code. So, for example, sa procurement professional with personal integrity would based by supplier selection on a fair criteria rather than accepting personal benefits via decisions. So the fourth form of ethical conduct is compliance and constant improvement. Progressive transformation should be used as a model for the right supply chain process. Although purchasing a code of ethics for use in a business is unrealistic, staying current on industry dynamics should be expected. Doing all the above mentioned ethical issues in the workplace would get you higher marks from the government as well as outside investors.
Do you have any idea of compliance and constant improvement? Based on the result?
Compliance. Ano na complete?
Compliance and constant improvement.
So, compliance, it refers to adhering relevant laws and regulations and ethical standards within the industry. So, constant improvement signifies that commitment to continuously refine and optimize supply chain process to align by evolving ethical expectations and industry dynamics. So, by staying informed and proactive, organizations can demonstrate a dedication to ethical conduct. So, for example, ang company ka ng sa fashion industry. So, as sustainable and ethical sourcing practices become more critical, the company regularly reviews and updates its supply chain processes. So, this includes ensuring compliance with labor standards, sourcing materials responsibly, and minimizing environmental impact. So by actively participating in the industry initiatives and staying ahead of emerging ethical concerns, the company not only complies with regulations but also demonstrates a commitment to constant improvement in ethical practices. So this approach can attract positive attention from government bodies and investors who value responsible and progressive supply chain management. So I have a question. Why is compliance with industry standards and regulations crucial for ethical conduct in a supply chain? So why is compliance with industry standards and regulations crucial for ethical conduct in a supply chain?
Isa ko na yung Michelle. Oral ni Michelle.
Why is compliance with industry standards and regulations crucial for ethical conduct in a supply chain?
Sleep well. It's because standard regulations
Ang question is, why is compliance with industry standards and regulations crucial for ethical conduct in a supply chain? Abogada.
Can prevent exploitation, promote transparency, build trust, reduce legal risk, protect reputation, and distribute the overall underutilized. Hindi lang. So, ano siya? Solution and supply chain compliance ensures that organization adhere to applicable laws and regulations governing of supply chain activities.
Concern now with the company reputation, financial performance, and broader social
Sinyola.
be able to stay up in the advantage of the market and society.
Gloria.
Compliance promote ethical behavior and social responsibility in the supply chain. It helps prevent abuses such as child labor, unsafe working conditions, environmental pollution, and unfair business practices.
It helps organic reforms and laws, regulations, and industry
Isha.
Compliance with industry standards and regulations in the supply chain is crucial for ethical conduct because it ensures that business adheres to established guidelines promoting fair practices, environmental responsibility, and worker welfare.
Another question.
Yes.
How does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices? How does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices? How does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices?
How does contribute the management How does the
How does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices? Lumantaw. Tangkalagan.
Enhance efficiency, reduce cost, and create ethical aid.
How does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices? Grano.
Continuous improvement is essential for optimizing supply chain management and ensuring its long-term success. Masa naman po siya?
Benedicto. How does constant improvement contribute to supply chain practices? Supply chain.
So being constant improvement, if you have your business, you have constant improvement in your business, according to in the supply chain. Because in terms of ethical, being constant behavior or your practices contributes in your business. Okay.
Thank you. Ang question is, how does constant improvement contribute to ethical supply chain practices? Also, constant improvement is essential for adapting to evolving ethical expectations and industry dynamics. So it demonstrates a proactive approach to addressing emerging ethical concerns and refining process to enhance overall ethical practices within the supply chain. Okay, the next topic will be discussed by the next important.
Supply ethics management is the practice of controlling suppliers and supply relationships by procedures, processes, and metrics that better align supplier business conduct with purchaser requirements with the goal of reducing the purchaser's total livelihood to supply chain operating in the same way. So, now may idea about supply ethics management is the management of the connections between a company and its suppliers. It includes the process and how you communicate and negotiate to your supplier. And if ka na imuhang supplier, maayo pag-provide of goods and services sa imuhang business, then possible na makabuild mo a good relationship as a supplier and a purchaser. Three major areas of corporate integrity. Supplier conduct should align with purchaser standards in all three major areas of corporate integrity. So, before that, I namoy idea about what is corporate integrity? Or paano lang? How do you maintain corporate integrity na?
What is integrity for the company?
Okay, corporate integrity requires you to act with honesty and consistency. Features of hari-hari na dapat na tayo consistency and and to hold yourself accountable for your actions even when no one is watching. So, a member of supplier integrity is the compliance and conformance as laws and regulation. Kanang diba sa business na ang mga rules and regulation, diba? Same atong ingon ni ZOZOBRADO ganina sa kanang business kanang the way ang proper na pagmanamit sa paghandle sa imong mga employee. And then, next is ethics. Pagsunod sa internal values. And then, ako na iyan mo ng internal values sa corporate and corporate responsibilities sa pagsunod sa external values. So, the difference between internal values and external values is internal values refer to the value that primarily for people who work here at your company. So, ang ginamention niya diri is kanang employee, hindi mo sa kanang business, sa mga workers. When you create internal value, you do it by improving your communication, improving processes, making things less. And then, ang sa external value is value you create for your customers. It's value experienced by people outside of your company. That is what you create when you publish content, offer promo, build a community, or generally engage in marketing, product development. Diba? Diba? Sa kaning internal values, diba, when you have a business, kabante man din sa ng isang diriwa sa Baywan na, samatalan kayo, mga Christmas na, daghan kayo ka-offer mga promo sila ang mga products. Any,
Additional question. Three major areas of corporate activity. So, supplier ethics management. Sa additional lang sa na ko. So, supplier integrity. Dapat mo giingon ka ba na to corporate activities about sa honesty and service. About sa company. So, supplier integrity, mo na siya ka ng kung sa ang ipakita kanang pagkagan yung ipakita sa mga supplier sa inyong mga tapos ang kanang compliance, ethics, o corporate responsibility. Pero mo na siya kanang dapat na makita ninyo sa na nasa inyong supplier. So, example, ang iyahang kasabot nila sa compliance o is mga laws and regulations is inside sa company. So, mini sa compliance is mura siya kanang like, hindi mo siya ma-imply ba or parang na since laws and regulation na siya, pinahanglan mo siya i-sundod or pinahanglan mo siya i-imply. So, about ano, for example, sa inyong company is may dress code mo. So, pinahanglan mo siya i-follow since na siya sa laws and regulations. Sa next is ethics. So, ano siya ka nang ang iyang kwantira is sa internal values. So, inside sa company or sa nasa imong supplier is hindi mo siya makita ang kanang internal values nila. So, like kanang kung saan kanang pamatasan sa imong employees, sa imong supplier. So, kinahanglan na mo siya makita sa imong supplier para kanang sa may kwan siya sa imong sa ethics sa company. And then sa corporate responsibilities, sa external values. So sa corporate responsibilities, katulong ka ng mga makita mga values sa imong employee outside sa company. For example, if ang supplier nimo kanang the way sila mo handle sa kanang sa imong mga customer, makita nimo dito na kung ba sila kanang na ano ba nila ang ethics sa company nga kanang mga pamatasan nila or mais na mo handle sa outside na sa ibang lahat.
okay, before I proceed to the following components of supply code of ethics, I have a question. What is a supplier code of ethics? Black power.
So, the supplier code of ethics, it is a behaviors which an organization expects of its suppliers and their staff that may extend the supply chain and may even commitment. So without commitment, how the organization will work that. So we need to
supplier, they can build trust and ensure compliance.
Yes. Very good.
A supplier code of ethics is created for the purpose of ensuring that the company's supplier adhere to high standards of safe working conditions, fair and respectful treatment of employees, and ethical practices. So a supplier code of ethics includes components such as labor practice and standards, environmental policies, and ethics. Labor practice and standards. If anyone wants to read that, give their own understanding.
Understanding.
Labor practice and standards. This includes safeguards against child labor, non-discrimination, health and safety, working conditions, working hours, compensation, right occupation, and freely chosen employment. So, this is the labor practice and standards. Diba sa trabaho naman dyan na mga diba natin ngayon against child labor. So, diba sa work naman dyan na if ganin na yung mga hiring, diba naman dito nakapagka-requirements din na oo, pila lang ilan na wahil age, hindi sila makuha sa child labor.
Kaya kung nilapat mo na sila,
Tapos, dilipusan. Environmental. Second is environmental policy. This consists of product and materials used and technology of transport system. Environmental policy takes into account product and material use as well as transportation technology. So, dili sa environmental policy when you sa imo nga business, di ba, samot na, gana yung mga pabrika, di ba, hindi ka nakakuha if wala kay permit sa government. And the third is ethics. Putting anti-corruption laws with effect and adhering to equal market practices as it comes to recruiting potential companies, employing employees, and maintaining partner relationship. Anyone na with the ethics? Kasabot lang ba?
Ala, bibigyan na mga report.
So, ethical issues relating to suppliers na naman safe working conditions and then unreasonable working hours and unsafe products like mga
Can you give some example about good environmental policies? Topic makawag din ito, environmental policies.
Okay. Good environmental policy. Tayo, kanang example, kanang sa business, kanang good environmental policy, kanang pag-segregation, gani sa mga garbage, para hindi
When several individuals are involved in the supply chain process, it is difficult to determine who is being truthful and who is not. Tensions arise in the supply chain mostly as a consequence of different conceptions of what constitutes fair play business conduct to one side can be seen as legal trade by the other. So the emergence of supply chain ethical issues is arise ethical issues in supply chain. When we say ethical, it's like more like knowing what is wrong and what is right. So since dapat companies and individuals can involved sa supply chain, na-emerge mo ng ethical issues like pwede na dili sila ma-align when it comes to like moral principle, what is acceptable to supplier and may not be acceptable to distributor. So, ga-arise ang ethical issues. And one of the reasons na ga-arise ang ethical issues in supply chain is lack of trust within companies. Like it is difficult to determine who is being truthful and who is not. So, lack of trust sila within the company. So, there are four parties that involved in arising in supply chain. Number one is the producers. In the supply chain phase, a producer can encounter a variety of ethical issues. Working standards, labor costs, child labor, environmentally unfriendly activities including the manufacture of products and waste disposal and the use of natural resources. Aside from these ethical issues like working standards, labor costs, child labor, environmentally unfriendly activities, now with our labor practices like exploitative labor conditions such as low wages, like inyong pagsweldo is dili kung unsa ang patakaran, kung pila yung nasabutan ng field is inyong pagkabyan, like example, hindi mo be 600, inyo na yung unang 400. So ethical issues siya when it comes to producers sa supply chain. And next is long hours. Long hours is present and the 8 hours overtime. Pero pwede. Next, unsafe working conditions nga man like what if like dalaan niyo pamilya tapos dili mo i-skip sa ang company. So ethical issues pala siya sa producers sa supply. Next is suppliers. Suppliers are an essential part of company supply network. Suppliers are critical in securing high quality materials as well as maintaining high inventory requirements and a dependable distribution network. So example kini is farmers. So sila ang suppliers sa mga raw materials ng product. Di ba may kapalit na ginabarato nila pagpalit? Ang presyo, ginabarato nila ang presyo kung sila magpalit, pero ginamahan nila kung sila magpalit. So, naay lack of trust, kaya pwedeng walay trust ang babaligya sa iyang gibaligyaan, kaya ang presyo ginabarato niya. So, kung yun nga, ikaw magpapalit, wala kay trust sa imong gipalitan, kay like ang quality. What if ang presyo is dili siya fair sa quality sa imong product ang ipalit. Any additional? So the third one is retailers. Retailers, similar misleading practices in product processing and labeling have been more identified in grocery sector. Customers who purchase the commodity are led to believe that the value of the packaging is equal to the weight revealed in the label. So retailers resort to practices such as tampering with the products or partially loading packages. So usa sa ethical issues sa retailers in supply chain is pwedeng gatamper sila sa products. So ang example there is wafer biscuit. Ang nakabutang dito is 30 per pack. Pero ang tinawagin ng presyo sa biscuit na wafer is 25 to 30 pesos. So ang tampering sa packaging, mo ito ethical issues sa retailer sa supply chain. Kaya wala mga naging fair sa imong customer.
Right.
So another problem is kada mga sa environment. Like pinapagawas nila nga environmentally friendly ilang
ng company pero dili DI. Like, kasunod sila sa environmental requirements. Okay, next is, last is customers. Similar misleading practices in product processing and labeling have been identified in grocery sector. Customers who purchase the commodity are led to believe that the value of the packaging is equal to the weight. So customers, though consumers are mostly the victims of immoral behavior, this is not always the case. People are less willing to buy when there are so many choices, and vendors markets a high quality product at a higher price. The word alternatives refers to more than just the presence of subsidy. So syempre, aside sa producer, supplier, and retailers, ang customer's food has also ethical issues. And one thing is pagpalit sa mga imitations. Example sa mga luxury bags. Diba trending viral ang mga luxury brand, and syempre, not every consumer cannot afford sa mga mahal na bags. Na instead of mapalit sila, like, tapos ang cost is 100,000 just para sa usa ka bag, dito na lang sila sa barato. And barato pero lower ang quality, which is imitation. And then ethical siya kaya na-carry sa imitation ang name sa brand. Like, ala sa cellphones. Like, mapalit kuno kahay og iPhone. Pero ang iPhone ang sa gawas niya mas style, pero sa sulod is Android. So what if pumunta to? So ma-carry sa brand na iPhone ang ilang damages. So sila pa daw, sili ang ako. Tapos, consumers are often asked to engage in ethical consumerism. When we say ethical consumerism, magpalit sa mga product in an ethical way. Nga ang brand, dili po sila magpupos nga i-lower ang ilang quality at the same time dili po madaot ka as a So, any questions? Yes.
Since you talk about ethics and ethical issues, my question is why ethical issues occur in one business?
What?
Why ethical issues occur in a business?
Ethical issues occur in a business by lack of integrity, organizational relationship problems, conflicts of interest, and misleading advertising. Tapos, pinakalas is lack of trust. Which is the main example. Yes, Tio. Sorry, Dali siya. Sige, that's all. Thank you.